Hi, this is Larry Greenblatt. Welcome to my CISSP 2023 exam tips video. So the only big change since my last video was that the ISC Square added 25 additional questions. So they list these as experimental. So there's now 50. I don't know. Should I not try to get some? No, you try to get them all right. That's all that matters. And the great benefit is they gave you an additional 10 seconds per question. They gave you an additional hour. So that averages out to your advantage. Just got to relax in there. I hope you enjoy this, and once it makes you want to buy some more stuff from us. So that's our goal. And know that information security is not just about confidentiality. Don't make that mistake. It's not just about, well, if you've ever hidden something so well that you yourself don't know where it is, you know, and it also leads to bias and other errors. I need more people to know, more miners to collaborate and come to a consensus to trust the integrity of that, right? So that's what blockchain and hashing and technologies are used for. So, and it could be just accounting, administrative controls, and cloud and other things, and automation are making things more available. And Peter Diamandis, one of my favorite living authors, points out in his books that the future is actually much better than you think. And we're moving from a time of scarcity to a time of abundance. And so that's our goal here, right? We're going to secure a future of abundance for the common good. And there are a number of questions on the ISO. If you're not familiar with the ISO, it's not an acronym for, no, it comes from the Greek. It means equal. And from Afghanistan to Zimbabwe, 2 extra members since my last presentation here. And we're not there to compete against these countries. No, it's to help us collaborate. That's what these technologies and standards are for. Now, it's very common for me that my students are engineers, subject matter experts, whatever, developers that really understand their job, and they understand how they would build it if it was for themselves. But the CISSP is supposed to be like a waiter. You're working with customers. You're not trying to build it for yourself. You're trying to figure out what your customer needs. Right? And they need to understand their menu like a waiter, but they also have to understand that their customers don't necessarily use their menu. So you may call it a porterhouse, but they ask for a T-bone, and you need to know what that's called. Sometimes things could be misinterpreted too. So bring me a picture of a dog tied to a fence. Well, if somebody said that's what I want, I mean, I could take a picture of a dog and tie it to a fence, but that doesn't make sense. So you have to figure that semantic meaning out. Most humans would probably get that. No, he wants me to tie a dog to a fence and take a picture of it. But Alexa has a 50-50 shot of getting that right. Now, the CEO, the governance goal is what we ultimately are trying to achieve. And whatever they are a captain of, let's say you're a captain of a ship that's supposed to go to China and upload some gold and download some tea. Well, you want to make sure you do that, allowing enough resources to get it done, but you don't want to waste any resources. You don't want to scrap much. I need to bring enough food for the people to eat, but I don't want to bring 10 times as much food. That would be a waste, right? So the COO wants to make sure you get things done on schedule, and you just take the toll road. But the CFO wants to, make sure you're not wasting money, and says, hey, it take us 15 extra minutes. It'll kill you. You think money grows on trees? And when you govern and make a decision, when the captain accredits, the business unit accredits, there's no right answer to that question. It's a stateful decision, right? They have to consider, well, what's the temperature? What's the weather? Is there political issues I need to, if I take that route? So there's no right answer in governance. There are wrong answers. Any answer that doesn't complete the scope and get you to upload your gold and download the tea doesn't work. You have to meet the scope, but you want to do that without wasting time and money or lives. So remember, CISSP, I said, is like a waiter. Their job is to understand what the customer wants, and that is the hardest part. And that's a very testable concept. Please know that the hardest part in any development life cycle is understanding what's required. But on most menus, they don't call it that today, like in the BIA, the business impact analysis. But I find these terms mean the same, and I would recognize them when I'm taking an exam. Yeah, I said most of my students are like great cooks, but they might cook what they think is the best food to eat on the menu. And the CISSP says, no, I don't care if that's the best steak we have. This person said they're vegetarian. I have to pick a different answer. So you have, A, B, C, or D on your test. Your job is not to pick the best technology. Don't make that mistake. Make sure you understand what they wanted. It is common knowledge, I like to say, that that's the hardest step in the development life cycle. It's like the BIA is the hardest step. But also know that that's not the hardest to get people to follow. A lot of times people love their jobs. People, I love my job. A lot of people love their jobs. You know who doesn't love their job, though? The guy who washes the dishes. An operations staff, the reason the guy got the job here is probably because he wasn't making enough money as a guitarist. He's a brilliant guitarist, but it just doesn't pay the bills. So the most difficult part to get people to follow is the operations, the maintenance phase. People just don't come to work to do patches. Nobody enjoys doing backups. But if you don't do it, right, you're taking dangerous shortcuts. So two very important steps in a life cycle you want to remember. And we, as a test taker, are primarily, again, the CISSP is just trying to understand requirements and design something on that menu, one of those four answers. And you want to make sure you got their order right. Picture of a dog tied to a fence. There are times when we think we saw, it said, which is the best metric? I picked process. I would say, which is not one of the following. Which of the following process steps is most effective to mitigate spoofing attacks in email? Well, anti-spam and endpoint detection, I think, could both be used as technologies, not process steps. So these aren't wrong if it said which of the following technologies. Compliance monitoring is a process step, I suppose. I make sure, that there's no fire, but that we're meeting requirements. What are the requirements? So A and B are wrong. C's not wrong. But that's the hardest part. If you want to, which of the following most effective to mitigate any problem is to understand what the problems are. Otherwise, you're mitigating your problems, right? Don't be the subject matter expert. Says this is what I would get. Yeah. Again, analysis is the most common term, but they may use other terms. Now, sometimes you're going to be put into situations where something went wrong and 3 of the answers have you do something. It's probably not the answer. If I get an alert on my smoke detector, I don't evacuate the building. I make sure that that smoke detector is accurate and confirm what's going on here, right? So always think before you act. Yeah, and I understand there could be a number of questions where you detect a problem and 3 of the answers come here, but you're supposed to analyze, And typically when the first step you do when you really want to manage something, you got to write it down. You could be a great guitarist and play in a band if you don't read and write, but you can't be an author. So if you really want to manage something, you will document and analyze your findings before you do anything. You'll confirm it. Do an impact analysis. Yeah. Think before you act. An incident responder receives an alert that an IP address on the inside appears to be attempting to open ports to an unknown host in a foreign country. What is the most appropriate next step to take? If I get an alert, I want to confirm the alert. What's going on? My Ring doorbell goes off when there's nobody out there. It's also missed when people have done. So yeah, we're always going to document. Oh, write down. What did that say? What time was it? And now confirm. Is it really, whatever problem? How bad is it? Sometimes it's a split-second decision, but it's always ready, aim, fire. Just do not. And some people tell me honestly that this has answered half of their exam. If you just remember to think before you act, you'll get, in some people's estimate, half the questions right. But sometimes actions speak louder than words. Everything else is lip service. We wrote down that it's there. I've had a lot of things written down on a menu that didn't show up in the food that I was anticipating. So I need to see how it's cooked. Is your kitchen clean? Why, it says over there that we are clean. Can I take a look at the kitchen? Can I watch you? Oh. Now, sometimes you can. There was a time when service level agreements were supposed to include the right to audit, but in the cloud environment today, like Larry, I'm a cloud customer of Amazon. I do not get the right to audit them. They're a publicly traded company. If you're not aware, there's a lot of questions on the CISSP about audits, particularly for service providers, the SSAE 18 audit, formerly SAS 17 or SAS 70 rather, and the report types generated. So SOC 1, SOC 2, SOC 3, Type 1, Type 2. So, but if they want assurance, you look for an action, right? Verbs. Griffin Space Tech, an asteroid mining company, wants to outsource its IT department. They're very concerned with system availability, even in the event of some disaster or disruption. Which of the following provides the best evidence a provider is able to meet their resilience requirements? Which one of these is an action? Or it's the result of a disaster recovery test? That sounds like somebody did something. All right, so I'm going to go with D. Oh, lost my page up there, Larry. Don't. D. So policies and contracts are what should happen, but the result of a test showed you is more indicative of what would actually happen. Huh, looks like it doesn't pick that up, you know. It's like the purpose of penetration testing, right? To see if the firewall really does block that or the IDS really does detect that. Larry, both answers are right. They're all right. They don't say pick the right answer. It's pick the best of the four. All of these things could work, but you know, actually some answers don't work. Not always. Usually people tell me there's at least two answers you can flush out. Nah, it's not A or B. But C and D are both right. And you have to figure out why is one better. And one of the most important things you want to remember is if you ask me, does Larry drive a vehicle? And I do, or does Larry drive a Honda CRV? That's accurate too, but it's more precise. So, and they could both be, they're all right. Actually, A, B, and C are right. Because I drive a Honda CRV EX. I do not drive, all-wheel drive. I do not drive the four-wheel drive. This is wrong. These are all right. This is the most precise. Which of the following is most true about digital signatures? Well, digital signatures use a hash to provide and detect tampering and integrity. This is not wrong. They allow a receiver to trust the authenticity of, by using that's not wrong either. Data is protected from disclosure. No, it's not. No, it has nothing to do with that. But the signed information is likely not corrupted. That's A. And nor spoofed, and that's B. This is a better answer. Yeah. So it's just more precisely correct. A and B are not wrong. It's like the king stamp. Your private key is like the king stamp, you know, but everybody has to have your public key to validate the king stamp. How do I know that's your king? You have the king's public key? It does look like it. Now, we don't just do stuff. My subject matter experts know how to do their job. They're not very good at planning that job or checking how they did and improving their processes. They just do it. Hey, I just work here. You know, that's a guy who just does stuff. But if you want to manage it, you make a plan. This is the set list we're going to play. Then you play the songs. Then you check, you record it, and then you act, you get better. We never get it right. Music could be wrong, but it's never right. It might be good enough for now. Good enough for an attic grad like it. Developers have just finished adding a new component to allow users to authenticate on an organization's enterprise resource planning (ERP) system using application program interfaces (APIs) for federated identity solution by a third-party provider using PKI. Maybe if you don't even know what that is, the waiter doesn't have to know that. What should happen next? Well, waiters know that after cooks just finished adding, somebody needs to check and see if he added is appropriate. Yeah, that's what happens next. Read through the technical people and things. Sometimes people report back that their exam was much more technical than they expected, and I have a feeling it wasn't as bad as they thought. Yeah, and whenever you develop something, you need somebody to check. Now, the DevOps world, you may not have like the third-party auditor from another company. You may have just a representative from that environment right there. One of the scientists in the R&D system that you're doing the new app for. But you still need somebody outside that, besides the cook, testing their work. How does this taste to you? A lot of questions too are how good are you or mature at doing a process. When you first, get behind the wheel of a car, you're only so good. You might never have steered a ship to that place. No, I can't play that song. CMMI has grown over the years, and some of the terminologies have changed. As of 2018, the ISOC has taken over. But I think if you read the questions and they just talk about maturity levels, it's all basically the same thing. So these are generally what you see, the level, and if you can play a song and you figured it out, you've been working all night at it, I got it, yay, and hey, you want to hear me play it now? Oh man, what's that chord again? It's only when the operations person can repeat that process over and over again that they're really good enough to send on a job on their own. God, the plumber's ready to plumb. He knows how to do it. The dishwasher knows how to wash dishes. But again, to manage something, to really manage it, you need to be able to write down what you did. Not too many musicians score their music. But if you can get that, you define or document it. Now it covers for, like, suppose you're not available, somebody else can take over that process, but also it works better as a team, as a band, So, and in fact, for the band to work, they got to be able to measure, now that I've documented the things, important metrics. Typically, the COO wants to know, they keep it on schedule, how much time do you think it's going to take? And the CFO, is this going to cost? And I bring extra, I had extra money just in case. I have one extra tire in case one of my tires goes, but I don't have 10 extra tires. So process efficiency is often hard to do because people don't like to report back how much they wasted. Do you have receipts for everything? Oh, why do you bother me with these little things, But if you can't measure this, you can't optimize it and try to reduce it. Now, just kind of remember the levels. And when you take a question, they may not mention CMMI in the question or the answers. It just comes in. Organizational software development department has demonstrated a consistent ability to effectively repeat their processes and documented them in a shared area. What would likely follow to further the process level of growth? Well, they already gave us the clue. We got to repeat. So there's level 2, but they also moved on and documented to level 3. They defined it, in a document. So the next thing to do is to measure some actual metrics, right? The next thing you do is how much time, right? How much cost, and again, how much could I save? How much are we wasting? And it's usually a supply chain issue. It could be that, they don't sell 2x4s in less than 8 feet, or it could be something that you just cut it wrong. You made a mistake and you throw it out. Process maturity is often reducing errors, but also more efficient supply chain management. Yeah. So And a Star Trek fan always said, we don't know what's right enough for now. It's not wrong for now. What's the best music? The songs we thought were great in the old days, maybe not so much now. It's hard to say. But we can prove that it's not music if it's out of tune or out of time. So in logic, you generally prove things that are wrong. No, looks like you can't do that. Looks like that won't work. Is this a good song? Yeah. So we try to get, usually I hear that, it was easy to rule out 2 of them. They were just wrong. And then it's up to Kirk to try to go, based on now the extra 10 seconds per question. So always let Spock take the question first. Why is the Federation recommending organizations migrate their asymmetric signing algorithms to crystals dilithium? This just happened in July of 2022 that NIST chose their post-quantum encryption algorithms. Now, without even knowing that, though, it says asymmetric. Well, let's already, just knowing that it has to be asymmetric, can asymmetric attacks, are asymmetric encryption algorithms used for data encryption? No. RSA, the asymmetric algorithms we have today, we mostly think of are either RSA and elliptical curve. And you might see some Diffie-Hellman out there too, IPsec people and all. But whatever the case is, these are not used for data encryption. No, these are used for key agreement, key exchange, and they're used for signing things. So, all right, oh, it says signing. Okay. So it's not A, to prevent someone from calculating collisions. Collisions actually affect hashing algorithms, not asymmetric algorithms. No, it's not this. It's not B. I was able to rule that out. To advance the protection of data authenticity and integrity. Well, wait a minute. Without a hash, but that's what it's signed for. I mean, sure, that's how you sign is for authentic. It is asymmetric, not wrong. To mitigate attacks on key exchange. Key exchange protocols are often asymmetric, but it's not a sign. Well, you could sign the key exchange. Captain, insufficient data. Could be D. Spock, we haven't picked C in a while, and it specifically says authenticity. Yeah, I don't know that D is, it can be argued extensively wrong, but it's not really what a signing algorithm is for. A signing algorithm is used for authenticity. And besides, we have, even with the extra 10 seconds, we have a limited time, you got to pick something. Yeah, but it's pretty cool. So RSA, Diffie-Hellman, elliptical curve, all seem to be vulnerable to some quantum computing vulnerabilities. The ISC Square has asked about these things for a number of years, by the way. So it's really cool that in July 5th, 2022, NIST did it. So for key agreement, they chose Crystal's Kyber. And for any Star Trek fan, they chose what I've been rooting for just based on the name ever since there were 4 rounds of this. 2017 is when I started. And when I saw crystal dilithium, it's a theoretical chemical used on the Star Trek to run their ships. But they also, I know, I did see some conspiracy. There's a guy for Open SSH right now. He wants to not even use Crystal's Kyber. He thinks that, I don't know, but it was based on Entru. And Entru is another very respected one. Entru and Entru Prime are used for key agreement. Falcon, which was chosen for signing, is also Entru for signing. And then they also support Sphinx Bus. So cool. All right, I hope you found this useful. And again, I hope to see you in one of my classes. God bless everybody.